Hey everybody, I am standing here in beautiful St. Albans, Vermont. Yeah, Civil War history in Vermont. How cool is that? We are standing in Taylor Park. This was actually at the time of the American Civil War known as the Village Green. And as I said, we have some Civil War history here. Let's talk about what's happening at this time in 1864. We're talking about October of 1864. What is happening is the Confederacy is dying, and they are desperate to do a lot of things to try to end the war on a positive note for them. If they can wear out Lincoln and the federal government and the Northern people, maybe they still have a chance to get peace terms and become their own nation. They're not going to win it on the battlefield at this point. What ends up happening is that there will be some raids into the north. One of those raids is done by Sterling Price, as he will raid up into Missouri, and he will fight several battles there, culminating in what is known as the Gettysburg of the West, the Battle of Westport. He will lose that battle. Also in October of 1864, as a matter of fact, the exact same day that this raid happens, October 19th, you'll have the Battle of Cedar Creek in the Shenandoah Valley, where Jubal Early will attack Philip Sheridan's forces. Early will end up losing that battle as well. The raid here is actually planned for October 18th of 1864, and it's supposed to be one of many raids where Confederate raiders will come into these northern towns along the Canadian border. Canada is very sympathetic to the South. They'll come into these towns, they'll rob the banks to bolster the Confederate treasury, they'll burn some of these towns, just create havoc. St. Albans will be the first one. It'll actually be the only one. But it's the first in what is supposed to be a series of attacks. What ends up happening is that with this being planned for October 18th of 1864, the raiders have been here for a few days. They are led by a man named Lieutenant Bennett Young. Young has been here acting as a theological student. He's even went and talked with the governor's wife at her residence. The other thing they want to do is get more horses. Not only are they going to need fresh horses to get out of town, but they're going to need fresh horses for the Confederacy. As Bennett Young's going around, some of his other men, he's going to have about 21 men, they're going to start coming into town, trickling into town, staying at various hotels around the area. What ends up happening is that throughout that time, they learned that on October 18th, there is supposed to be a thing called Market Day. Market Day is going to bring in a whole lot of people. It's also known as Butter Day. But this is going to bring a whole lot of people to St. Albans. Not the time you want to do an attack with only 21 men. And most citizens in the 1860s carry weapons. So they are going to postpone that attack, this sacking of the town, until October 19th of 1864. And the reason that they do that is because of Market Day, but it plays into their favor. What happens is it's a kind of a rainy, gloomy day, but most of the politicians and things like that, the important people, are not in the area. The governor has left, the mayor has left, the sheriff's left. They've all went to other cities based on just other duties that they have. So there will be no authority figures really here in St. Albans. However, there will be several men working on a hotel. You'll also have several strong men working at the railroad. So they've got to be careful. The object is to come here into downtown, here on Main Street, where we're at, and attack the three banks. Rob those three banks. There are three banks here in St. Albans. They want to rob each one of them, get as much money as they can, take some horses, and then set fire to the town. What will happen is on October 19th, the attack will start. Bennett Young will be out here in the street, and he will throw off his coat and yell out that in the name of the Confederacy, they are attacking this town. Now, that becomes very important later. The banks are robbed. Some of the people are put in a vault and trapped in there. The Confederates go to set fire to the town after stealing several horses as well. And they're using a thing called Greek fire. It's basically like a Molotov cocktail. As they throw that to have it, it's supposed to explode on contact. It's been wet. The Greek fire's gotten wet. So basically all it does is when it hits, it just smolders. They don't really have anything good to light it with, or for it to light up. Everything's wet. So they're not able to burn the town. They will steal several horses, several prize horses as well. And this ordeal will take about 10 to 15 minutes. During this time, anybody that is captured here on Main Street will be brought here to the Village Green, here to Taylor Park, and they will be put under guard. There will be guards on each end of Main Street to watch for people coming in to assist the residents here in St. Albans. Some of the other things that end up happening is the governor's wife will go and sit on her porch with a revolver. No one messes with her. They don't raid the governor's house. Kind of understandable. They will take several horses, and by the time everything is said and done, there will be one casualty or one death here in St. Albans. There will be a local resident who ironically has Southern sympathies. He will be shot and eventually die from his wounds. Several of the raiders will be wounded and be carried out of town. The Confederates will leave this area and some posses will be formed. One of those posses is formed by a Union officer by the name of Conger. Conger had been captured and brought here to the Village Green, but he escaped and was able to go and get the railroad workers and the hotel workers and come back this way. So he is going to develop a posse. The other posse is going to be developed by another local man here in town, and they are going to pursue the raiders out of St. Albans. As the raiders are going, again, they've announced that they're doing this in the name of the Confederacy. They want to get to Canada, across the border. As they are going, they will come upon this guy who's just riding. He's got a nice horse, and they will stop him and steal his horse. And they will leave him with one of the stolen horses here from St. Albans. As they are continuing, the posses start coming up. They will see this guy, and they will see the stolen horse, and they will begin shooting at him. This poor man has no clue what's going on. He will take off up through the fields, over the hill. He may still be running today. After that, the Confederates will go across a bridge, and they will see a load of hay being pulled across this bridge by a farmer. They will use that Greek fire that they have to set fire to the bridge. However, the posses are too quick, and there is a pastor who is Johnny on the spot and is able to help them put that fire out. What ends up happening is the posses are able to continue to pursue the Confederates. They will make it into Canada. However, the Confederates will be captured by Canadian authorities and U.S. authorities. And this is what ends up making such a huge deal, as this becomes an international incident now. When these guys left, they were able to actually steal more than $200,000 from the banks here in Vermont. That money, some of it gets buried and is gone. Ends up being a farmer who happens to see these guys burying money on his land and somehow gets a very nice house later on. Wonder where he got the money for that. But anywho, this money is a big deal. The raid is a big deal. It does actually what the Confederates kind of wanted. They were able to escape to Canada. They have wreaked havoc here in the north, as troops will be brought to the border towns along the Canadian-U.S. border to quell any further actions like this. But the trial will be held in Canada. Even though U.S. authorities want them back in the United States, it will be held in Canada. And the big stickler for things is, was this a military raid, or was this just simply a robbery and a murder committed with a citizen being killed? The Confederates, saying they had announced their presence as Confederate soldiers and that this was sanctioned by the Confederate government, will say this is a military action. They have to prove it. They will send several envoys to Richmond in order to get information to bring it back to the trial in Canada, in Montreal. A couple of those people will make it back. One will be captured, but they will make it back with proof from the Confederate government that this was a sanctioned raid by the Confederate government. On top of it, you have a guy named Young, who was one of the raiders. On the way up, he actually told somebody on the train that they were going to raid St. Albans and rob the banks, and they laughed at him. When he checks into the hotel here in town, he checks in under the name Jefferson Davis of Richmond, Virginia. Again, he gets laughed at. However, he does participate in raiding the town. This trial, these guys will actually be released, and then some of them will be rearrested, and the trial will go on for months. The money that they get off of the raiders once they're captured actually goes back to them. It doesn't come back to the banks. Now, Canada will reimburse the U.S. banks eventually, but not to the tune of over $200,000. It's more to the tune of like $80,000. But these men get that money. In the end, the war ends up being over. This international incident, a war with Canadian authorities and British authorities, is avoided, and the trial basically just ends with no contest. They let the guys go. The federal government's done, the war's over, everybody's done. So, really neat thing to see here is this is the northernmost action of the American Civil War, and it happens right here in St. Albans, Vermont.